Welcome to the new lecture where we will discuss the pointer, array and loop. So we will use loop. Through loop we will iterate through each element of the array. So we will also use the pointer inside the body of the loop. So let's see an example how can we use a loop through to iterate through the elements of the array using pointer. Okay, so this is an example where we have used the main function and declared an array of type integer, and the name of the array is ARR, where we have actually declared 4 elements or 4 spaces or slars inside the array. So it means that we have an integer type array that has 4 slars, where we can say 4 elements in this array of integer types. Then we have declared a pointer, PR is the name of the variable which is type pointer of type integer. So we can save address of any variable having type integer. Okay, so let's introduce a loop. Through loop we will try to initialize the values in different slots of the array. So let's first first visualize the array. For example, this is our array where we have 4 slots in the array. So first slot of array has index 0, second slot has index 1, third slot has index 2, and fourth slot has index 3, and the name of this array is ARR, okay, which is pointing to the first address of this array. Okay, so let's introduce a for loop to initialize the values inside the array using pointer. To iterate through this array we have introduced for loop. Okay, so for loop has the variable I is equal to 0 and I is less than 4 and I plus plus. So it means that our iterations will be starting from 0 until 3. Okay, so we will have iteration for 0, for iteration for 1, 2 and 3. So we will have 4 iterations here in this loop, and we will see that how can we access these 4 slots using this loop while accessing the elements through pointer. Okay, so first of all we need to assign an address to this pointer. So how can we assign that? By initializing pointer PR is equal to ARR. Okay, so as we know that name of the array can be used as a pointer, and this pointer has an address of the first element in array, and that address can be assigned to the pointer. Okay, so pointer is a pointer variable which saves the addresses of other variable or addresses in the other variable. Okay, so in this case we are saving the address inside another variable. Okay, so this is now pointer which has actually address of the first element, ARR has also accessing or pointing to the address of the first element. Okay, so how can we access now through this PR to the first element and initialize value from the user? So let's see, cn PR. So what actually PR perform here is that we are accessing the address now. Okay, so we are actually accessing only the address, but we want to initialize value on the address. Okay, so for that we need to dereference this pointer. Okay, and then we need a terminator here. So in this way PR has a first address and we are dereferencing that address, and on that address we are going to save a value from the user. Okay, so in first iteration where the I will be equal to 0, okay, and condition will become true. Of course the condition will become true. So in first iteration user will input value on the first slot. Then the execution will come to the update statement and I will become 1. This is second iteration, okay? And the condition will become true, obviously, because 1 is less than 4, yes. So execution will come here to the cn statement, and here again we are accessing the first slot of the array, and we are dereferencing that address to actually assign a value inside that address. So what we need to do is to increment the PR value so that we may access the second slot of the array. So what we need to update here is, we need to update here is P plus I. So now in this iteration, this is the second iteration, the value of I is 1. So 1 will be added to the address inside the pointer. So it means that now this address will point to the second location of the array, and then we are dereferencing because we want to initialize value inside this address. So through this way we can initialize a value from the user inside the second position of the array, okay? So back to the first iteration where the value of I was 0. So if you add 0 to PR, so it means that PR is already referencing or pointing to the first location, and if you add 0 to PR, the address, so it will have no effect on the address of the pointer, okay? Address of the first location. So it means that in first iteration we are accessing the first location because I is equal to 0. In the second iteration I will become 1, and this one will be added to the address inside the pointer, and that address will be incremented, and actually that address will point to the second position in the array, and we are then dereferencing that address so that a user may initialize value inside to the array. Similarly, the execution will come again to the I plus the increment, the update statement in the third iteration. So I will become 2, and 2 is less than 4, yes, condition will become true, and then cn statement will be executed. So here I has value now 2. So 2 will be added to the address inside the PR. So PR, actually, let me clear it, that PR is pointing to the first element of the array, okay? So in the second iteration I has value 2, so 2 will be added to the address inside the PR. So it means that we are incrementing the address by 2. So now this statement, this combined statement, compound statement, is actually pointing to the third location or third element of the array, and we are going to dereference that address so that a value may be initialized. By dereferencing we mean we want to access the value, not the reference, okay, not the address. So this is the whole address of the third location, and we are dereferencing that, so it means that we are going to initialize the values. We can also make it C out so that we may fetch the value inside the address, okay, inside that location. Okay, so the execution then will come to the update statement, and I will become, in fourth iteration I will become 3, and the condition will become true. So 3 is less than 4, yes, then I is now 3, so 3 will be added to pointer, okay. So it means that this compound statement now, because we are adding 3 to the pointer, so PR is pointing to the first location, and we are adding 3. This is adding 1 plus 1 and plus 1. So now this whole statement is pointing to the last location of the array, okay, the fourth slot or the fourth element of the array, and we are going to dereference that address. So it means that we want to play with the value inside this location. Okay, so in the fifth iteration, I will become 4, and 4 will be checked in the condition. So is 4 is less than 4? No, this statement will become false, and the execution will come and jump out of the body of the for loop. And if you have other statements in the programming, so those statements will be executed sequentially, and then your program will become halt. So this is how we can access and initialize the values inside the array. So just replace this for loop with cout statement, and you can then fetch the values from inside the array. For example, now you can see that we have used only cout statement with its operator. Okay, and we have used the same concept of dereferencing as was used in the the dereference operator in the cn statement. So through this statement we are going to initialize the values inside array, and through this statement we are going to fetch or access the values so that those values may be printed out on the console output. Okay, so this is actually the concept using pointer to access the values and fetch the values from the, or even initialize the values inside the array. Okay, we can also use the name of the array. For example, because name of the array is also act like the pointer, so we can also use name of the array. For example, just write down ARR. So this concept is also similar to that concept where we have written the PR, okay, the pointer, the name of the pointer, and you can also write down here PARR. Okay, so there is no difference of using ARR, the name of the array, and the pointer. So it's up to you if you want to use the ARR, the name of the array. So this is also referring to the first location, and if you want to increment it, so you can increment it by adding a value with that address, as was we have done it with the pointer variable. Okay, we have also learned that how can we access the array element by using simple array name with index number. For example, we can access using index number. So this is a very simple concept. Okay, just replace this zero with a variable through which you can access each element of the array while putting this block of code inside the body of any loop. So we have now 3 options, whether use to pointer, or use the name of the array, or use the name of the array with index number. So these are the 3 different methods through which we can initialize the values inside the array, and fetch the values and print it out on the screen while using the for loop. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have any question regarding the pointer, the name of the array, and using a loop to render through the elements of the array, so you can just write it down below in the comments, and we will try to answer all those questions. Thank you so much.